if you look at these champions individually, right, Varus is the best marksman, I would say almost in the game, and that he cannot lose lane to anyone. And Nami is pretty much the best support and cannot lose lane to anyone. So when you pair them both together, you get something of a... It's a bit of an Exodia bot lane here going on for FENNEL Adversity.
Yeah, it's not so strong. I mean, they're going to try and play for the Braum, trying to reduce some of that power. But the issue with that, I think, is that we won't be able to see, I think, BURIRAM United be able to match the rotations quite as well. Because if you leave Kinemon in a side lane by himself against Danny, and you bring Supporter and Rafe to rotate around the map, you're going to see that Danny really smash that lane apart. The Kai'Sa's going to have a really tough time, going to be forced out of lane, and is losing a lot more XP and gold than they would probably want to. Especially because we have seen Kinemon be that carry that BURIRAM are able to play as sort of a flex to rely on him as well. And so it's not just down to Noah and Shiba.
I mean, this is basically throwing down the gauntlet, right? If you take the Kai'Sa Braum into Varus Nami, you're basically accepting, you know what, if we played out the 2v2 lane standardly, we are going to get destroyed. So we need to find avenues to cheese them with our jungler, or we need to find avenues to get on top of them and all in them. Either that, or we just concede lane completely, let supporter try to find avenues to roam, which is going to be difficult to do with Braum, and let Kinemon just get to the mid game and be a monster. But it's going to be tricky for BRU's bot lane for sure, and I think that that's going to be difficult from the get-go. I do like this Orianna answer to Ziggs. It's exactly what we expected, right? Mid lane, Resident Sleeper. Let's look to the other lanes. But I do like that Domain has something which is going to be a bit more active and aggressive for him in the form of this Kha'Zix.
Hey, Xin Zhao, however, that's a pretty nice one. I like what BRU are trying to go for. There's a lot of disengage. There's a lot of chance to reset. At the same time, there is the engage. You can push the button. You can jump in on FENNEL Adversity. Yeah, we're going back to this. So how do you feel about this? We're going back in Fiora, back in for power. I mean, it works, but it's also not worked. That's such a split decision, honestly.
If there was a time to pull it out, it would be in game 1. I think this is fine. I think you can still do it. Hopefully, at least hopefully to me, after they finished their games yesterday, they went backstage, they talked to each other, their coach scolded them a little bit, and now they come in today with a better understanding. Because if you look at the team comps in isolation, and you ignore that Power has been just running it down with Fiora yesterday, then I would say that this is a good draft from FENNEL. They have the means to wave clear, they have the means to disengage, they can cover the Fiora side laning with the Kha'Zix. They have so many options to win the game. I really like what FENNEL have prepared for game 1, and it just comes down to execution.
Interesting, very interesting. We're going to see ourselves that Varus Nami denied once again, and I start to feel like the Braum and Kai'Sa is BURIRAM's answer to the Xayah Rakan. You know, you talk about some of these bot lane pairings, that seems to be their go-to, right? It's not the Lucian Braum, which we typically say is probably the strongest of guaranteeing stuns and early game power spikes, but it's BURIRAM's way. It's a similar sentiment, I suppose, is what we're getting at here. We're going to try and unlock that power in the bot lane and maybe not fall victim to a lot of this poke ranged damage. So it's exciting in the bot lane. As you already touched on, though, that mid lane is going to be a little bit AFK with blue buffs being chucked around and saying, cool, there you go. I'm just farming at 10 CS per minute, doing whatever I can to try and just keep myself in this game and scale up with a 2 to 3 item spike and hopefully have our side laners come into effect. Now, I'm excited to see this one because BURIRAM have never shown us this Darius Xin Zhao top side before. It's going to have obviously a lot of engage. Definitely can spike rather heavily at level 5. But can Power find redemption? Is the 4-man strong enough? Has his coach griefed him again? Is Fiora the pick? I suppose we're going to find out because we're going to chuck it to our casting team for game number 1. It's game 1 with TJ and Riku.
Thank you very much, Skimmy. My name is indeed TJ, and I am indeed joined by Riku. We were looking at this draft, Riku, and you were kind of groaning. It was an emotional roller coaster for you. As we get into this game, how do you feel about what FENNEL have set themselves up for?
I mean, usually when we're talking about FENNEL Adversity, their big comfort picks are Xayah and Kai'Sa. But of course, Danny's Varus is actually not too bad at all. Like, we've seen it receive success when they went up against Flash Wolves yesterday. But in the meantime, you know, we get to see Shaw back at his best champion. Didn't get to see him shine, though, in the BO5 against Flash Wolves as they lost that. But you know, this is also that big redemption. We know Shaw really loves to play make with that big shockwave, but that's going to come up later, possibly maybe at the second to the Elder Drakes later on.
And our big question into today kind of comes from that FENNEL versus Flash Wolves match. We were on the desk for it yesterday, a roller coaster for you, as these are your PPGL boys over on the FENNEL side.
Yeah.
And We saw the two sides of their team, a very good-looking FENNEL Adversity, who took Flash Wolves, one of the top teams in this tournament, the second seed out of Taiwan, one of the legacy regions in mobile esports. They took Flash Wolves all the way to Game 3 and are pretty far into Game 3, looking very good, and then lost to a reverse sweep, kind of completely falling apart through the end of Game 3 to Game 5.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest question, right? What FENNEL Adversity are we going to be seeing today? Is that the Game 1, Game 2 from yesterday against Flash Wolves, where they were very patient? They know their win conditions. They were, you know, they knew if they didn't have to take fights if they didn't need to, and they were very patient. And their execution when it comes to fights as well. So, but are we going to be getting Game 3 or Game 4 and 5 FENNEL Adversity where they're doing the complete opposite, not fighting to their win conditions? They're going in one by one as if it's, in almost words, solo queue. And now 1v1 here though at the bottom lane.
Power having to flash away, bleeding. Should be fine. Is fine. Don't worry about it. Noel not able to find the early kill, but a strong start for BURIRAM, who are kind of coming into this with their own chip on their shoulder. One of the more favored teams out of the Thai region, unable to qualify through a very stacked play-in stage. And now they've kind of, this is a time where they need to prove they have more firepower than they showed yesterday.
Exactly. I mean, having to get 0-3 yesterday by Divine Esports, especially you're coming from a region, you're coming from the championship region, back from the Summer Super Cup, and basically kind of living under the shadow of EVO's Esports. So now they have this second chance here in the SEA Championships to prove that they're more than that. They will be able to fight head-to-head when it comes to the group stage teams.
And it starts here versus FENNEL, a team that, unlike Divine, aren't going to push BURIRAM. We've had a very quiet early game so far. FENNEL, if they're on form, play a little bit more defensively. This is going to allow BURIRAM to set up for plays like this. Good knock-up, killer instinct, and first blood over to BURIRAM. But FENNEL are here for the response. Doming over the wall onto supporter. That's going to be a kill. Shade of Corruption, slightly short. And as a result, it's going to be 1-for-1, support for support. An even trade to start off this best-of-5 last chance series.
Really nicely done, coming from FENNEL Adversity and BURIRAM. Good response, good revenge. Not the timing, though, is still going to be... Everybody's going to be available for the next dragon. If it's a Mountain Drake now, I feel like, of course, BURIRAM would love to have the Mountain Drake just because Danny is over there. They will prove to have those shields at utmost value. On the other side, though, FENNEL would love to have that as well, because Arshini is going to be a massive poking monster, especially mid to late game. So, we'll see what the priorities are going to be, because looking at the top lane, of course, Rift Herald, you want to unlock the top lane as well, get First Blood Tower, funnel in a bit of gold to your top laners as well. Noel has that snowball potential. You got Power as well, who's going to be a late game monster on the split push.
And we saw some really good games from Power yesterday, and some very disappointing games from Power. He's got his Fiora here, one of his more powerful picks, if you'll excuse the pun. How do you feel about it?
The pun, I guess 6 out of 10. But Power's performance yesterday, again, could be 50-50. But the consistent thing about Power is that even if he doesn't win the lane, you can really rely on him to basically deal with that split push threat later against Noel. He's not going to lose too hard. We'll see, though. Maybe we get Power Game 4 and Game 5. Hopefully not.
Power less. She looks very upset right now. I can see the camera. It's like just professional distraught. Anyway.
Don't even know how to rate that. Oh!
Drake did get picked up. That was by BURIRAM. FENNEL tried to burn through this Rift Herald during that time, and it looks like they've just been forced off of it very cleanly. So both early objectives, both of the objectives that spawn at the 5-minute mark have just gone into BURIRAM's pocket. Very good signs for the Thai team.
Yeah, this is really nicely done. That's a 2 for 2 in early objectives. Therefore, FENNEL Adversity not being able to exchange anything off of the map. They wanted to get First Blood Tower, but Shaw may be a tad too late, I suppose, because Noel is already there. A good attempt by FENNEL, but a little bit late to the party.
And it's a little bit worrying for FENNEL specifically, because with this team composition, a little bit lighter weight, they're going to struggle in the late game. You need tanks to fight front to back in team fights once we get hyper late game, and FENNEL doesn't have that. So they need to build up such a large amount of damage through their mid and early game performance that they can blow up the BURIRAM front line once we get there. And this is not the path to that. This is a very slow early and mid game so far for them.
Exactly, and it all boils down to the lane swap that BURIRAM had. This could be a dive, though. Poor Power. He is going to be dashing. The rest of the team's there, though.
Yeah, Power is going to hide back behind the turret. I think he'll live. This turret, though, not so lucky. A funeral, a eulogy for the turret is held here by Danny, Rafa, and Power. The other two members of their team are trying to trade out turret for turret, and they will do exactly that. So, even trading, still for FENNEL.
And the gold lead still not as significant just yet, but the objectives are going to start piling on. BURIRAM still has that Rift Herald to use, possibly towards the mid lane or a top if they want to keep opening that up.
First Mega Inferno bomb of the game. It's a boy. Does land on Rafa as he kites back behind the turret.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You were talking about how FENNEL Adversity wants this early game to work. They have a lot of damage, especially come mid-game as well, and they were hoping to sort of win the lane, especially in a 2v2 scenario with, you know, Danny and Rafi just dealing, outranging, outdamaging Kinemon and Supporter during the laning phase, but they never got that because of so much lane swaps that happened that BURIRAM was starting, and FENNEL Adversity was basically chasing that matchup and not being able to get that.
And I'm worried here in this game where we're seeing signs of the FENNEL that fell apart in game 3, 4, and 5 for their series yesterday against Flash Wolves, where it just FENNEL are drafting these compositions that need damage, that need early game value, and they're not finding it. That was a very nice escape by Power. He's in trouble. Flash away will cure him of his ills. Here comes the Rift Herald in the top side, though. This is dangerous.
Good thing Rafi is there for the assist. But the biggest question is if that's going to be enough, because this is a very big, heavy dive with a lot of burst damage to finish you off right away. Here comes a possible secondary dive, though.
Yeah, Rift Herald's still going. Tower was traded turret for turret. FENNEL just got the bot lane turret, show picking that one up and getting all of the gold. He then backs to base, runs down lane, shows up here in time. Get it? It's because he shows up here in time, Riku.
Oh dear, that's the third time. I feel like the ratings are going lower and lower. I'm kidding. No, not gonna lie, that was really good. That was 5 out of 10.
Thank you.
There you go.
That was an emotional roller coaster for me. And does keep the Rift Herald off of the turret. So, again, even trading. Again, one turret per. I guess that's good for FENNEL because they didn't get that Rift Herald. And they kind of mitigate the impact of the Rift Herald there. But they have no access here to this Drake.
Yeah, this is going to be very crucial. There's a teleport coming through, though, from Power.
Arriving right into the Mega Inferno Bomb. As all of BURIRAM sit tight on top of the dragon, now down below half HP, 1000 HP, and dropping Doming into the pit too late. Drake picked up by BURIRAM. Doming will go down to the Ignite as he flees. Supporter gets the kill, and that is the only kill given over, though Power's still fishing. He's in the middle of the pit, dueling Supporter. He did get Noel down very low, but I don't think he's going to finish off any of those kills.
And that is the power of a Ziggs. Everybody from FENNEL Adversity are coming at one choke point. Therefore, it's so easy for Arshavy to funnel through all of the bombs into one area. And even though FENNEL had a ton of vision to work with, they didn't have access. Arshavy was that big, big wall where they couldn't just get in. I mean, we saw how the team fight in general would be executed, air quote. You have Danny with a lot of pokes. And then if anyone who's low, you got Doming to come in, finish off the kill with massive bursts as a Kha'Zix. But we didn't get to see that. We didn't even get to see big shockwave potential plays because FENNEL were very hesitant as well, and they didn't have any access on that fight.
And they just have this problem once we get into this mid and late game of, if you want to take a poke battle, and maybe tidal wave, good bubble, Power into the front lines, and Shiba's running. Power has dropped the grand challenge, but has to flash away. And FENNEL can't finish the kill.
There's just so many ults burned there with no return whatsoever. That's what, 1 ult for 3? That is not a very, very nice deal for FENNEL Adversity.
And I'll go back to what I was about to say, which is all of FENNEL's poke, all of their significant ranged value goes on to characters who can take it. Whereas when Kinemon attacks the front line, he's attacking players like Power who don't have that HP.
Exactly. One Acadian Rain is just easily, easily there to scare Power away to back off.
Coming zoned away, BURIRAM cut off the control, take another turret.
That's the thing about Kinemon, right? There are times where BURIRAM is going to play around him, build a draft around him.
This might be a dangerous situation for him. Power goes in, Show caught out though, focus down, he'll fall, Noel, half HP, Kinemon into the front lines though, and he's found a kill. Power, Show, both gone, as the Killer Instinct sets up for a wonderful execution of, again, the lightweight FENNEL frontline. There's nothing they can do about it, and BURIRAM's gold lead is just growing. They're turning hero to the Baron, over the wall onto Rafe, a deep contest. Danny nailed to the floor, flash over to try and escape. He's running back through his own jungle, doming out of the bush to zone supporter and Noel away. It looks like he'll survive, but BURIRAM own this map.
BURIRAM, a lot of confidence, having a lot of dragons, having a lot of towers on the board. And you mentioned this. Noel, Shiba can just speed run and just focus on one target and they'll immediately die. FENNEL Adversity just has to run away and respect the capacity of BURIRAM to be able to get in your face almost all the time. And I don't think the tidal wave is going to be enough. I mean, this is basically Exhibit A. Power focusing their target onto Kinemon, but Shiba and Noel were there to zone out FENNEL Adversity. And, that's exactly the space Kinemon needs.
Yeah, Kinemon just spots an opportunity. He says, all of my tanky frontline has engaged. And oh my, we come into Rafe just wandering into the wrong part of the neighborhood. And he's gone. 34 seconds on that death timer. Doming should survive here. 34 seconds on that death timer, and an Infernal Drake just 5 seconds away. I'm not a mathematician, but BURIRAM should get this Infernal. And they're going to actually push down the mid lane first. Here's Power on the flank. Shiba down to half. Good riposte, good flash. Power survives, but the turret falls.
That's more space for BURIRAM to work with. Again, FENNEL Adversity has no way, as you mentioned, TJ, to access this dragon. And I really love the confidence now coming from BURIRAM. The fact that, going back to my point where Kinemon doesn't exactly need a composition to play around him. He's going to manage his own. He's going to create space for his own. And basically, Arshini, Shiba, and Noel can just do whatever they feel like doing. Trust Kinemon to carry in the later stages. Now that we see his KDA 302 almost even having that full item build already, having to get that 3k gold lead versus Danny, this is not looking pretty for FENNEL Adversity.
Yeah, it's a slower game one, but that's what BURIRAM want. They're playing a late game composition. They need to wait for this Ziggs to go shopping, find all his groceries, and FENNEL are just standing there. They're the store security guard following BURIRAM round the hall, but not actually stopping him from buying any of the items,
Yeah, it's looking the cart of Kinemon versus the cart of Danny is looking pretty sad. It's like Danny only has a box of milk and cereal. That's it. Meanwhile, BURIRAM,
you're looking at him like going down the aisle, and you're like, man, you live alone. It's not going great for you.
Yeah.
You're not buying any groceries. It's just like microwave meals. And,
Exactly that. It's the complete opposite of what Kinemon has, like full full refrigerator of groceries. Like the whole deal.
Exactly.
Meat, fish. You've got what?
He knows how to cook.
Soda? Yeah, knows how to cook.
Dive in, a deep pressure, and Rafe already shredded. My God! Mega Inferno Bomb just eliminates Rafe. And the push keeps going. Archony round on the flank now, scaring away Show, and surely this is enough for BURIRAM to turn onto the Baron.
And this is complete control. Look at Power, though. He's split pushing. He's busy split pushing at the bottom portion of the map. We'll see, though, if there's going to be an attempt to steal. There's no shockwave, so there's no playmaking ult available.
Yeah, and Doming has to get past Noel, who's playing bodyguard, gatekeeper. It's not happening. Kinemon, Killer Instinct finds the kill. And he actually keeps looking. I don't think he'll be able to find anything more. Power, if you're curious, did take an inhibitor. I don't know if that'll have impacts on the game, but the split push went quite well. Over there on the top side, there was an attempt to hold an arch, and he finds value, killing both Danny and Doming. That means he'll take an inhibitor and keep pushing. Power still yet to return to base, but BURIRAM won't press the opportunity. They get Baron. Power does recall safely. BURIRAM get Baron. FENNEL trade inhibitor for inhibitor.
I think that's a pretty sweet deal, because for FENNEL Adversity, now they can look into sneaking a pick, making it into a 4v5, and then Power is just going to rattle the side lanes and confuse BURIRAM on decision-making later on when it comes to fighting.
I mean, it's a pretty sweet deal, but it's like a pretty sweet deal on, you know, a cup of ramen. You know? It's still bad for you.
Still sad. Oh.
Yeah. Oh dear, Power trying to get this split pushing done, and supporter Archony just roam immediately onto him. They know what has to be done. They can't allow that split push to happen, and what's more, if they isolate and shut it down, Riku, it's very hard for FENNEL to stay in this game.
It's very, very difficult. Everyone's so squishy, BURIRAM can just strong-arm their way like this.
Oh, full dive in, Show very far back. And this should be the game. BURIRAM with a very clean game one. Just gonna take FENNEL shopping. And it's gonna be 1-0 in the series, as FENNEL don't get a word in across this entire game.